Okay, Mark, what I'm going to do just before we jump into running a job through the system, I'm just going to try and cover some of the StatEye terminology we use here at StatEye and some of the functionality. Hopefully once we get through that part of the system, it will make the system much easier for you to understand. What we're looking at now is what we refer to as the StatEye dashboard. Okay, the system's been built in 3 levels of depth, and just to explain that to you, we talk about the StatEye dashboard. We also talk about the status screens or StatEye screens. So we may say customer StatEye screen or inquiry StatEye screen or purchase order StatEye screen. And just to demonstrate that second depth to you, if I click on the customer tab there, you'll see we're now on the customer StatEye screen. If I hit the update button, the system will display to me all the customers alphabetically from A to Z. At the top of any StatEye screen, we can apply filters to get this data into some kind of order that we'd like to see it. So for example, if I was looking for a particular customer, I can just select customer and I'll select Apple Technology there, click the update button, and straight away you can see that the system has moved that data to the top of the list. We can also apply multi-filters to this using dates from and to. A nice filter you might want to look for there, if I just set this to total invoice, hit the update button, and straight away at the top of the list, also Apple Technology, you can see our top spending customer.
Okay, could I just ask why some of those lines in red?
Okay, brilliant question. So I was just coming to that. If I just navigate back to the StatEye dashboard, you'll see the red, what we refer to as red and black indicators over each button. If I was to click the red 12 over the customer button there, the system will automatically display to me all the red line items, and what that's showing me there is all the customers that are actually over their credit limit.
Okay, yeah.
So in conjunction with the dashboard and the StatEye screens, you can see the red and black indicator gives a complete overview of the business. Really, it's a quick glance. So for example, you can see there quite an important one. We have 51 outstanding invoices, of which 40 have gone overdue for payment. And again, if I click on the red 40, you can see there that the system automatically displays to me the 40 invoices that are overdue for payment. We can then apply filters again to them. For example, if we was looking for a particular customer, and I will again select my favourite customer, Apple Technology, click the update button, and you can see there we have 12 invoices that are overdue for payment.
Brilliant. I could see that being really useful for us then.
Okay. And again, the reason I can see there's 12 overdue, if you look at the bottom there, the system will display totals for you. So you can see 12 invoices, total value.
Brilliant.
This information on the StatEye screens can also be used to generate reports. And just to give you a demonstration of that, once you've manipulated the data using the filters, if you hit the download button at the left there, you can actually just export that via CSV, or similar to I have on my PC, I have it exported direct into Excel. This can be used to generate the reports, and again the data can then be manipulated. It can also be exported into Word and softwares like that. Now, where StatEye is unique with that is we don't dictate what reports, in PDF formats and things like that, what you can have. Right. Across the breadth of the StatEye screens, you can actually generate thousands of reports. So for example, you want an outstanding report on, work outstanding. We hit the 43 there on sales orders, and straight away we can see all the orders that are outstanding to our customers.
Could I see that by just a customer then?
Absolutely. So all we'll do there, the second filter, select customer, hit the update button, and the system's put them in. You can see ABC at the top, all the orders, AMS. And again, I can't emphasise enough that using them filters, there is literally thousands of reports you can generate.
I can imagine.
And ways of manipulating that data.
Okay.
I said to you at the beginning of the demonstration that the system was 3 levels deep. Now we spoke about the dashboard, we also spoke about the StatEye screens. The third depth is what we refer to as the form. So again, when you talk to us here at StatEye, you'll hear us talk about the sales order form or the purchase order form. Yeah. It makes communication very easy. And just to demonstrate that, if I go to the customer tab there again, I click the update button, and if I select on any one of these lines and double click, I'm now on the customer form, and you can see there that's where all the details of the customer are kept.
Yeah.
All these indicators on the dashboard, red and black, are automated by the system. They don't rely on a human being going into the system and telling us, for example, that they're over the credit limit.
Okay.
What the database is effectively doing there, it's actually looking at outstanding invoices and any work in progress to give you the indication that the customer's gone over that set credit limit there.
Brilliant.
Okay.
See our accounts like in that.
Absolutely. So something else we've done with the system, some functionality I'd like to cover now, is something we've built it in what we refer to as a wizard format. And just to demonstrate that to you, if I go to the customer to add a new customer to the system, Okay, I press the new entry button in the top left of the StatEye screen, which is always in the same place.
Okay.
And this wizard format, what we mean by that is you can see there that I'm not bombarded by lots of fields to select or fill in.
Yeah.
So if I just continue to follow these wizards, I select Google, the customer's name, so it's Mike's Auto Spares. And can you see as I type into one of these boxes, the next one appears for me to follow.
You know those drop downs. Could I just have another look at one of those?
Okay, don't be put off by what you see in these drop down menus.
Right.
When you was issued your system, these drop down menus actually come to you empty. You would populate these to suit your business. But what they do is they put you in control of your system. So for example, I've chose what's important to my business, and what it means is that the people working in my business can't type into these menus.
Right.
It stops things like spelling mistakes, duplication. For example, customer source there that we might want to report on, we might just want to use the term Google. What I don't want is somebody also adding one, internet. Because obviously when I then try to generate a report on that, we've got two fields, etc.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. Again, I'll come to that later, but to set up these menus, very simple to do. Initial training will cover it. In the application, a password area in the top left is where you will create all them lists.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, something else we've tried to do with the wizard format is enforce people to complete data. Now, you'll see now I've actually not completed this form, but if I go to close it down, you'll see that the system is actually pointing out to me that I've not completed this data. It's actually saying either fill this data or lose this form. It can be quite frustrating, you've got a hasty sales guy and all he wants to do is do his quote. So what he does is he types the customer's name in there and then he goes and does his quote.
Yeah.
You've seen that.
I've come across it before.
Yeah, absolutely. So it enforces people to do it right the first time, and of course, down the line you have a nice, tidy, up-to-date system.
Good idea. Yeah.
So I'll actually just close that without saving, and just to finish on the forms, again, all the forms, regardless of what part of the system you're in, are using that same wizard format. Okay.
Cool.
Just going back to the customer form, I'll quickly go into one and I'll just show you how that looks when it's fully complete. It takes a couple of minutes to do that, but you'll see there, once that's completed, you've got all the information regarding that customer,
Yeah.
including multiple contacts at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
I'll also just cover a little bit of brief functionality here. Again, I'll show you here, but where it is, as we go through the system, it becomes far more important.
Yeah.
So the first thing I'll talk about is, can you see the brightly coloured buttons at the bottom of the screen?
I can.
Okay, fantastic. Now what they effectively do is give you a complete history of this customer from within the customer database. We actually also refer to these as quick links. For example, if I was to click on the yellow inquiry button there in this Apple technology, what the system is actually doing for me there is automatically filtering the inquiry status screen and showing me every quotation that we've ever done for that customer. And again, very quickly I can see the totals at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so just running through them, you can see we have 11 active of 25 diary entries. We can see we've done 126 quotations, 91 orders, 124 works orders, and 93 delivery notes, and 85 invoices. So effectively that is a complete history of that customer. And again, that's a quick link, and I'll refer as we go through the system later on to quick links.
Yeah.
Now the system's got its own fully integrated email feature. Now again, where this is more important as we progress through the system, you'll see that all documentation, quotations, sales or acknowledgements can all be just emailed direct from the system. If I go over to the email tab there on the left hand side, click the email, you can see there that I can select from the customer contacts, any internal contacts, my colleagues that I would like to copy in on this. So I'm going to copy Danielle in. I just type the email as you would in your normal client, click send. That email goes direct out from the system. It also copies you in your inbox as confirmation that it's been sent to your client.
Yeah.
If they click reply to that from their email, it simply lands back into your inbox.
What if I've got a drawing or something like that?
To attach to the customer?
If I want to send an inquiry out to a supplier or something with them,
absolutely.
can I send the drawing?
Yeah. If you just think of how you use your current email client, whether that's Outlook or Gmail.
Add attachment.
Yeah, you just choose the contacts and you just add the attachments as you want to there.
Brilliant.
So it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, where it's more important, I will show you, I'll pick up on that. There's no need to be adding attachments later in the system because the system automatically generates them all for you.
Alright, fantastic.
Okay. Another great feature which I'll just cover now, but again will become more important later, is the ability to attach documentation, any format of file that you like to the system. So again, later in the system, you'll see it's very useful for attaching drawings, inquiries, material test sets and things like that. Yeah. But just to demonstrate it to you, can you see the attach button in the left there?
Yeah.
If I just click on there, button there, add file, go and locate the file. For example, I'm going to take this PDF document, click update, And as quick as that, that's now up there on the server. If anybody accesses your system from anywhere in the world, they can simply see there that there's one file attached. They can then go in there and they can actually view the file. So effectively, what the attach feature does is anything that you currently store in a filing cabinet, folders, you can actually be attaching to the system.
So would I put like customer drawings there?
You wouldn't necessarily put them there. What I was just showing you there is how the attach feature works. But yeah, you would attach the customer drawings, but you would perhaps attach them in the inquiry at the side of the parts.
Right.
What people tend to attach in the customer database there is sometimes terms and conditions, credit applications, things that are relative to that customer.
Right, okay.
And again, you'll see that attach feature appear all the way through the system. Okay, so just to finish off on the customer form there, any of the data that's been entered there, you can hit the edit button on the left hand side and update it at any time.
Okay.
We have the opportunity there to add alternative addresses. We can also set credit limits for customers that we touched on very briefly earlier. Just demonstrate that to you. For example, this customer, I'm going to set them a £1,000 credit limit. It does require an admin password, so only people authorised within your business can do this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and again, if I press update, you can now see that they've only got a credit limit of 1,000, which is effectively pushing them considerably over their credit limit.
Does that stop me working? Does that stop me working on that customer?
It won't stop you working, and we've found historically that that's not the way to do it. But what I'll show you as I go through the system, it will remind you at every step. So, for example, when you're putting together a quotation, it will say to you that this customer is over their credit limit. Do you want to proceed?
Because that's the best time actually to get money out of people when they've actually sent you a job.
Yeah, and not send it absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, but again, I'll pull up on that as we go through the system to demonstrate that to you. Have you got any questions there on the customer database just before I move it forward?
No, I think you've covered it. Thank you.
Okay. So very quickly, just before we move over to the fun part of running a part from start to finish, I'll just quickly show you something on the supplier database. As you can imagine, the supplier database is very similar to the customer database. You can see there that you have all the information laid out regarding the supplier. One really nice feature, if I just clear the filters on there, is something what we refer to as a keyword search. Now again, you would set these keywords up to suit your business, but if I go to the list there and actually say search for keywords, and I'm just going to type in there aluminium plate and sheet, again you would set them up to suit your business. If I press update, you can see there the system's displaying to me the suppliers of that product or service. Very, very useful for sharing information through your business. You know, for example, a new member of staff needs to know where you buy a particular product. They can simply do that and see all the suppliers they can actually get a quote on.
Is there any limit that I can put on suppliers? For example, you know, ALCO suppliers with, you know, numerous types of materials, stainless sheet, section.
Okay, yeah, no. What you can do is you can add multiple keywords per supplier.
Yeah.
So looking at this aluminium services here, if I just put this in edit mode, you can see on the right there, look, these are all the products or services they're listed under. Again, if I want to add one to that, just click on the box, and it might be that they also supply us with steel sections. They will appear under all.
And I'm guessing
keywords.
we tailor that to our business, do we?
Yeah, as I said, you would in your admin area, you would create this list.
Okay.
It will probably be the single most biggest list on your system that you do create. You can guarantee that every time you need to add a supplier,
That's useful.
There's another product or supply. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to jump over to the inquiry, and I'm going to try and demonstrate to you how we really capture all the information from start to finish. And now if we do the quotation and, you know, quote up the part, there's very little duplication running from that point, right from the inquiry, right through to the invoice.
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, the system's telling me there that we've got 19 inquiries to do, of which 18 are overdue for submission.
That's about right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we very rarely see a business that doesn't have lots of these reds on the system, but you know, if you can keep the reds off this dashboard there, your business is running very, very effectively.
Yeah.
So first of all, I'm just going to take an inquiry that I've received from a customer, and you can see here I've received this inquiry asking me to price up these two joints. So first of all, if I just grab that file, I'm just going to save the whole thing in my documents there. So going back to the system, how this will be loaded onto the system, go to the inquiry. Again, we've got the new entry button in the top left there. And again, back to the wizard format, I select the customer. So it's Allison's Technical Services. Select the customer contact. And again, the benefit of having all this information in the customer database, there's very little for me to type here now. I'm just selecting this information. Inquiry source, I don't know.
all the work's up front, isn't it, really, getting all these customers and things in there?
It is, and it can seem a little bit, you know, putting that information in, but obviously as you populate your database, it just becomes quicker and quicker to be using.
Yeah.
you can see there that I'm actually logging a inquiry source. Again, this list's a little bit big because we try to demonstrate it, but most of the time returning customers will use it.
Yeah,
But again, that gives you the ability later on to be able to report on, where are your inquiries coming from.
Right.
It might be that you employ a new sales guy and you actually want to start looking at how many inquiries did he bring in. You can easily generate a report on that with the click of a button.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just following the wizard, it's our fabrication department. This date required is quite important. Now this is not, people often mistake this for the date the job's required. This is actually when is the quotation required to your customer. So if I set this here saying the customer needs this quotation by the 26th, that's where the system takes the information. If we just go back to the dashboard, there's 19 quotes. If this quotation is not submitted to the customer, that's when it will be read that, we're actually late on submitting that quotation.
Right.
Okay, and again, the system will measure you even on that if you want it to, on how are you performing on returning quotations to your customer.
Brilliant. Like
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Now you saw me save the email, the inquiry from the customer. So what I'm actually going to do there is just go to the overall attach, and just using that attach feature we spoke about, I'm actually going to upload that entire quotation there, and you can see there, look, I've uploaded that to the system.
Yeah.
And again, what I'll show you later is even if in a year's time somebody was to come back and question an invoice number, we can trace this in terms of traceability right back to that original inquiry.
Yeah.
We supply a red part, the customer comes back and said it should have been green. Well, I can very easily go right back to the beginning and see what did they ask for in the beginning. It's also very, very useful for ISO purposes, CE marking.
Yeah, I can absolutely see.
Yeah. Which again I'll cover that later and show you the implications of that.
Yeah.
Now what we need to do now is actually start pricing up this part, building up the cost.
Yeah.
So if I just go to add a line there, that's quantity of product. I'll keep the numbers very simple to try and demonstrate to you how this is working.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say that we're going to quote 10 machined items. Okay, the drawing number, again it's optional, but if you do put in drawing numbers, you can then search your database by them drawing numbers at the click of a button.
Brilliant.
You can see the specification box there. You can put as much or as little as we want in there, but again, the more information you capture, the more you're going to, say to your customer, this is what we're offering.
So what, things like galvanised and powder coated?
Yeah, you might want to put in there whether you're actually including the galvanising or not including the galvanising.
Right,
So what I'm going to put there, I'm going to confirm to my customer that we're including grade 316 stainless steel.
Yeah.
Okay. Last time I mentioned it, but you'll see the attach button appear there again. This is where we would attach the drawings relative to that actual part that will stay with that for the life.
Right, yeah.
So I'm going to actually attach, look, you can see there the drawing of the part, but there's actually two drawings as well, a specification for that part, which I'm also going to attach.
Fantastic. You know the amount of time we spend hunting around for drawings.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing of the past. You'll actually never spend time.
What
hunting
happens?
for
What
drawings.
happens if the customer sent a revised drawing? How would you manage that?
I mean the way really you can obviously recreate the part with the UPR. I mean, in the real world you can revise the drawing number, but in the files there you can see that we've got two there, and you could add a note there that this drawing has been superseded. And actually,
right.
you can add another file there, and you could, let's add that one again.
Because we do have to keep all the
Yeah,
drawings for
you can see there is they are there on the server, and they're there for life of the part.
fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I've just tried to demonstrate to you there before I price up this job is how we put the quotation on the system, because it might not always be yourself if you're the person doing the estimation that loads the inquiries. It might just be the girl that gets the inquiries onto the system, and then by looking at the system what have I got to get done.
All right.
So I'm actually just going to click done on that,
Yeah.
and you can see it's quite important that is an inquiry that's status created.
Yeah.
Okay. Now me as the estimator, when I come up in the morning, you can see now there, look, the system's
Story chain.
yeah, I've got 20 quotations to do. I can simply click on the 20, and you see the system's listing to me there all the quotations that are status created, and you can see the one there, look, Alison's Technical Services. I can go into that, and if my colleague's done the job correctly, I can actually go to the file there. I can take a look at the inquiry from the customer. You can see that it's all attached to the system.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Okay. And I've also got the parts relative to that we're going to price up. So
And
again,
all the
drawings.
drawings. For the drawing.
Yeah, and again, these drawings are going to be there later on for when your guys in production want to manufacture the part, talk to the customers. They are always there. So pricing up the part, okay, I'm going to put the quotation in edit mode, and you can see we've got the costing tab in the middle there.
Yeah.
Hit the costing button. Now, I don't know how you quote at the moment. I mean, can I just ask how do you do your quotations at the moment?
Very best a spreadsheet. More likely, me sat down. Best.
Pen and paper.
Estimate. Yeah.
And do you have a lot of, when you do a quotation, I mean, can you forget about that and can other people take the job and move forward with it?
Generally not. I send it over on email with a price, and then if the job comes off, I've got to try and remember how I got to that price, if I'm honest.
Right, so
I won't tell my customers that.
Okay, so what I'm going to show you now is really, you're already doing all that work that I'm going to show you. But what I'm going to capture here is all the information that if this job does become live, there's very little work for anybody to do to move this forward. It's really just a glorified spreadsheet, an Excel sheet, if that's what you're used to, but it obviously has got a lot of power taking the job forward.
Yeah.
So first of all there, you can see at the top external costs. Now, these are things that we need to buy in to do with these jobs, and like most people, you're buying your materials and you apply a markup. So just to give you a demonstration of that, if I add a line, and again, the supplies are in the database, so from General Steel, again, something I forgot to mention, can you see the little magnifying glass at the side of the supplier's name there? That again is a quick link. Wherever you see a customer's name or a supplier's name mentioned or another form, you can actually press on that little magnifying glass, which I'll do now, and you can see there, look, that it gives me the details of that supplier.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a good example in the real world where that's very useful is that from this supplier, I'm going to need to buy a 20mm OD by 3 metre piece of 316 bar. I actually need to get a price for that, so I can just hit the magnifying glass, and straight away I've got all the details to give that supplier a call and get a price for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the quantity of this, I need 5 lengths. The cost of them lengths are £10 each, and I'm going to mark that material up 30%. So you can see there, look, it's marked up, and the unit is £6.50. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah. What that sell price? If I want to sell that, let's say 18 quid, how would I calculate my markup there?
Okay, so what we've done there is you set some defaults for markup as a safety net, really.
Yeah.
I can either one of two things in the markup. It might be that I know I can get a bit more from this customer. I can increase the markup to 50%.
Yeah.
Alternatively, to make it flexible how people like to work, I can put in there £20 and the system will automatically calculate the markup for you. So you can just type into either box and the system will do the math. You can see along the top there, as a reminder, we're quoting 10 parts. It's going to give us the unit cost, the total cost, and the unit itself and our margin.
Yeah.
So at the top there, you can list all your external items. So again, from Hart Engineering, and this company might be doing the galvanising for us. Yeah, and this galvanising is just one at £100. Okay.
Yeah.
At a later stage, if you want it to, when this becomes a live order, the system now's got everything there to generate the purchase orders for you. The next stage is the internal costs. Now you would set these machining centres up to suit your business. Again, you might want to use general terms, for example, the welder or bending, or you could use terms such as, general labour. Now, if I just add a line there, and again, we've got these set up in our database, so I'm going to select the fabrication and welding. I'm going to say it's our day rate. The system already knows we've put in our admin what that costs us per hour. So all I do there is I put a time to set up, so I'm going to say there's 1 hour to set up, tab across, and I'm going to say they take 15 M per minute to do each, and tab across. The system's calculated there for all 10 parts, it's a 3 hour and 30 minute job.
Yeah.
Okay, and again, we sell that to our customer at £85 per hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, where does it get that cost per hour from?
In the admin, you would set up machine centres.
Right.
Now, a machine centre could be, you can break this down into individual operations, for example, drill, bend, weld.
Yeah.
Alternatively, a lot of customers find it much easier to manage just using generic terms like labour and things like that.
Yeah.
You can also, again, on the quick link, where we've got the fabrication and weld, we've got the machining centre reference there. Again, if I click on that magnifying glass, where that's taking me, it's taking me through to the schedule, and straight away there, look, I can see all the jobs that we've actually got outstanding on that piece of equipment.
All right.
I'll come back to the schedule later. I don't know if it's important to you, but is that something that would be of interest?
I mean, to be honest, we quote lead times the same irrespective of how much work we've got on. It would be useful to be able to see how much, I mean, what's that expected telling me? Yeah, so as a very basic there, if you just wanted to, again, I'll just go back to, if you just want to know how busy is that piece of equipment, I can click on the magnifying glass there, and straight away I can see that, all these jobs look on the estimated times, be stacked one behind the other. So effectively it's telling me there, look, that last job is going to be completed by the 9th of the 2nd, 2016. So effectively we can't get anything done until February next year without shutting them jobs out of the way. I will pick up on the schedule later, yeah, absolutely. I will pick up on that later and show you how that's created. But again, it's all automatically generated. Yeah.
So just going back to our quotation, again, I'm going to add another operation there. and I'm going to say that we're going to do the inspection, inspect the goods, and I'm going to say there is 15 minutes to set up and they are 5 minutes each. You can work with M for minutes, H for hours, S for seconds, however you're comfortable quoting.
Yeah.
And again, the operation we sell at £30 an hour to our customer.
Yeah.
The reason we have a cost in there and a sell is that when we actually do the job, we're going to measure profitability on the job accurately.
Right.
So on this job, for example, it might be that we estimate we're going to make £1,000 profit. The system, without very little effort, will actually tell us that we actually made £900 profit on that.
All right.
Again, which I'll pick up later. Again, putting the internal costs in like that, the system's got everything it needs now to load the schedule going forward, and it's got everything it needs there to generate the job cards. Okay. Another thing there, I don't know if you carry any stock within your factory, but I'll just quickly show you, and again, I'll pick up how the inventory gets there. If you've got an inventory, stock materials and things, for example, aluminium. Yeah, I'm going to use that piece of 800mm aluminium. I'm going to use one of them. The system obviously knows the value of that because it's something we stock, and I'm going to mark that up 100%. Again, at a later stage, that will put demand on that inventory item and notify us should we have any shortages and things like that.
I mean, to be honest, we have like a few offcuts kicking about the factory. That's it.
Yeah,
Really. I don't see we use that.
Okay, I'll not spend too much time on that then, but then if you'd like to know more about the inventory, it is more of a complex part of the system, but we can come back to that and show you how that works within the system. Okay. Now what I've showed you there is quite a full-on way of quoting, putting all the detail in. Now we know from working with a lot of customers that don't always want to go to that length of quoting. Now just to show you a very similar way of quoting, if you just want to put a budget cost together, the system does support that. So I'm just going to add another line to the quotation. And again, what I'm going to quote this time is 10 fabricated parts. Now if you just want to put the limited information, if I go into the costings, you can see we've got the budget at the bottom there.
Yeah.
I add a line there, and actually all I'm going to put in there that I'm going to guesstimate.
That's how I work now. So.
Yeah, so I'm going to guesstimate that these 10 items, they're going to cost me £150 to make, but I want to sell them to my customer for £250 because I know that's what he'll pay.
Alright.
Okay, so you can see there, two opposite ends of the scale of pricing. The downside to doing it this guesstimate way is that should this become a live order, somewhere down the line within your business all that work has got to be done.
I suppose it's somebody deciphering how I've got to that price.
Absolutely. I mean, a halfway measure there would be maybe to attach a spreadsheet or something that you've got to that price with.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we'd strongly recommend doing it the other way because obviously you get the real benefit of the system then and it should improve your business. But, if you've got low conversion rates, you're converting 10 in 100 quotations, you perhaps don't want to go to all that trouble. I've just done that to show you that you can do it either way.
Yeah,
if I just show you the kind of document it's going to produce, I'm going to hit the view button there. You can see that the system will generate a nice PDF document, and you can see there, look, we've quoted the 10 machined items and the 10 fabricated items.
Yeah.
In terms of what your customer sees, regardless of how you've priced it, they will still see a nice professional looking document with the selling price.
We get a lot of customers that ask us for a price on like a 10 off and a 20 off. How would the system?
Brilliant question. It's something I was about to come to. So you can see now that this machined items, to give you an example, we've quoted in a 10 off. Okay.
Yeah.
Now if I put this in edit mode, because you can come back to a quotation at any time, you'll see there that the system's generated a unique part reference, and it does this sequentially for every part you put on the system. Now I can actually reuse that part, and not only can I reuse it on this quotation, it might be in a year's time that the customer wants it re-quoting. It can also be pulled into a new quotation, so you will never duplicate the work that you've done.
Right.
So if I hit the reuse button, and I can search by the drawing number, the part description, or the unique part reference, but if I go for the unique part reference, which is 602, you can see there, look, the system's found it.
Yeah.
Click continue, and you can see all I do now really is I change the quantity to 20, go into the costings, it might be that I need to buy 10 of them. I still only need the one lot of galvanising. The system will automatically calculate the times for me, because obviously we've put a setup time and a unit time there, so it will just divide the setup time. Yeah, close that down, and you can see as quick as that, I've actually generated a price. And you can see there that the 10 off will be £91 and the 20 off will be £62.
What about a part that's got very, very similar, but it's not the same part? For example, we built this assembly, and on some of them they're right-handed with a hole, and the other ones are left-handed with nothing in it. How would you manage that?
Yeah, it's actually a great feature that was driven by one of our customers. So you'll notice here, look, if I do that again, I use the reuse button.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to look at all the parts we've ever done for this customer. Once I select a part, for example this one, you'll notice I get another question there, and what it's saying to me, do I want to make an exact copy of that UPR, or do I want to just copy the costings? So what I'm going to tell the system there is that, no, I don't want to copy the attachments, the drawings, because they've been revised, and actually I don't want to use the same UPR, I want to use the same costings, but I want to generate a brand new UPR. So effectively I can just copy all the costings but create a new part.
And on that, have a look at that.
The new part?
The costings,
yeah. And you see there, look,
it drags all that.
yeah, it's pulled it all in. But what I can then do on that part, I can actually say transit case, it's actually for a widget. I can change the description, no problems, without factoring the historical data.
And does that give it a new UPR then?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. That generates the new UPR. I mean, alternatively, the system will sequentially generate UPRs. You can, when you create a new part, if I just go to create a new part, if you type in there prior to the system, you can actually use your own UPR numbers. The system will just, you know, it's driven by SO and accreditation. You do need UPRs in your database.
Right.
The only thing the system will enforce there is it won't let you duplicate one being a unique part reference.
We do a lot of fabrications that are very, very similar. You know, they've got the same operations. It's just the times that alter and a few of the bought-in items. So that potentially will be very useful for us.
Yeah, something else you might find very useful also then is, not only can you pull parts in that's been quoted previously, you'll also see the copy button there. Now what that will allow you to is actually copy the entire quotation onto a new quotation number. Or it might be that it's something you quoted 2 years ago and actually you're re-quoting it now. You're going to have a look at all the costings, but you just hit the copy button and the system will actually just make a copy of that quotation and allow you to then go in and update the prices.
Sometimes we quote the same parts for 2 different customers. Can you copy it to a different customer?
Absolutely. Again, when you use the reuse button, one of the questions there is, look, do I just want to look at parts relative to this customer, or do I want to look at every part on the database? And you can see there, look, include parts from everybody.
Yeah.
And what that list is now showing, which will be absolutely massive, is every single part that we've ever put onto the system. And they can be searched for, again, by drawing numbers. If I just go in there, look, 1, 2, the system's actually found all the drawing numbers with that sequential, with that 1, 2 in it. The more I type, the less it returns. So you can see there that the string of 1, 2, 2, 3, they're all the drawing numbers that we've ever used within the system.
Useful, very useful.
So you get a lot of part history, traceability on parts and things like that. Some other information displayed on the quotation. If we was going to do all these, the system's looking at all the costings and it's given us an estimated time to do all parts. It's 29 hours and 30 minutes. An estimated cost. Probably most importantly, it's telling us there that if we was to do this job, we've estimated £2,572 profit. Again, I will show you how this automatically measures this and give us a report back on that. You'll see that the quotation is status created, and again I said to you that on the dashboard we don't rely on the system updating these. So now if I go action, I've got the option to print or email. Email using the facility I've demonstrated to you in the customer form. But I'll use the email because it's much quicker. And you can see that it generates a nice PDF document. I simply type my email to the customer, please see attached, and I just hit send.
So you don't have to save the document?
No, absolutely not. I mean, the systems are always there in the system. It's quite difficult sometimes convincing people that they don't need to save documents because it's just a change in how they work, but the system's there, the documents are there ready for generator.
Brilliant.
If for any reason there is a change to the document on the system, you see the revisions there? So if I was to come back to this at any time and make a change, for example, I'm going to change that drawing number to read 555, action, regenerate that document. You can see that on any of the screens, if I just close that now, you can see if I go into the revisions, we're keeping a history of revisions and new change that document. So, you know, on the very rare occasions that your customer orders at one price and it conflicts what's on your system, you can actually go back to previous documents to see what was sent to them at any point in time. And that's right through the system on the acknowledgements, the invoices and things like that.
Brilliant.
Okay. You'll also see just by emailing out to the customer, the system has now changed that status to status submitted. Okay. Which effectively on the dashboard, if it works very quickly, you'll see that has now gone to a 19. Okay. Have you got any further questions on the inquiry there before I move forward? Fantastic. So quickly, what I'll just lastly cover for you, I don't know if it's of any importance, is if we go to the inquiry status screen, again, if I just drop down the filters at the top, and I'll not go on too long because there is literally thousands of things we can search for on there. You know, we can look for all quotations containing a particular part, date entered, you know, ones done by particular estimators. So what I'll very quickly show you now, very useful, if we go back to the inquiry status screen, and what I'm going to look at now is all the quotations that we've submitted to our customers. So the ones that are status submitted are effectively the ones that could potentially turn into orders. And you can see there, look, using the totals, we've got 6 inquiries, a total value of 31,889.
Do you know we never follow submitted quotes?
I mean, really in the real world, any sales guy needs to kick up the arse, because even if it's a Friday afternoon, what they should be doing is, perhaps giving a telephone call to all these customers and asking, are we going to see an order for this business?
Yeah.
But what you can do to further that, for example, let's give a scenario that I give Air Dry Systems a telephone call, and what they tell me is that we're not getting this order because we're too expensive. So to get this to the final stage, really, this submitted, if I put it in edit mode, I've got the action button. Anything that changes the status is generally always in the action button on the left hand side.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to mark that quotation as lost. But what the system's also forced me to do is just to give it one of these lists that you would set up yourself, what you want to record.
Yeah.
But they've told me we've lost that on price. Now I mark that as lost. Where that's beneficial is I can easily run a report on this particular customer, and it might be that I've spent hours doing 500 quotes, but I've actually lost all of them based on price. I know in future when I'm prioritising that they can go straight to the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
And just that one little feature of giving it a reason gives you that at your fingertips on the screen there. Look, you can actually say there, look, show me all quotations and show me the loss reasons, and show me them by customer and things like that. So again, just bear in mind on the status screens you can virtually generate all kinds of reports and answer questions to your customers that they never thought was possible without any real effort, just using the system. Now on a more positive note, the one quotation we've just done for Alison's Technical Services says she'd like to proceed with the order.
Yeah.
But what she's telling us is that she actually only wants to order line 1 and line 3. So if I just put it in edit mode, and you can see there that I can just untick line 2 and untick line 4. Okay?
I noticed that estimated times just moved when you did that.
Absolutely. Removing them from the quotation will actually,
So I can see there.
give the data. Now it's now a 12-hour job. So if I was wanting to talk to my production and ask the question, can we squeeze 12 hours worth of work in by next Friday? I've got that information at fingertips.
Okay.
Something to bear in mind there is it is only estimated data, but any system in the world can only do that based on estimated.
Yeah.
But what the system will start to give you as a business is how accurate are you at estimating this data. So I'm going
Right.
yeah, whether you actually want to see that or not.
Yeah.
So very simply, is absolutely, and again, I've tried to put some emphasis on how little duplication there is going forward.
Yeah.
I hit the action button. I've got the option to convert, so I hit the convert button. I'm going to add to an existing order, but on this occasion I'm going to create a new order. I hit the yes button. And you'll see we've gone to the orange section, but if I just navigate back to the dashboard there, where we are actually is at this orange sales order stage. Okay? So on the sales order, the information we'd perhaps capture here is customer contact, the customer's order number, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The delivery address, you may have multiples.
Yeah.
Select it. The shipping method, again, a list you will set to suit your business. I'm going to confirm that it's included in the cost. And the date required. This is a really important date because this is the day we're saying to the customer that we're going to get this job done by. And actually what the system will do, it will measure you as a business on your performance and how you deliver to customers very easily. So I'm going to say that we're going to aim to get this job delivered by the 30th.
Yeah.
Okay. You'll see it's status created. If I go over to the action button, I've got the option to print or email. I'll print this document, but again in the real world you'd probably email it because it's much quicker.
Yeah.
Printing or emailing has the same impact on the status, and I'll just show you there, look, no duplication. I've generated a very professional looking acknowledgement to my customer. And once the order's been acknowledged to the customer, it's quite an important part of the system, because effectively what it does is it puts into motion a lot of the things we had in the costings.
Yeah.
So if I just navigate down, you'll see there, look, it's given us what we estimated in cost. Can you see them there?
Yeah.
So we estimated we was going to spend £350, the cost of the labour, the inventory was going to use. Again, most importantly, we estimated we was going to make £985. Now the sales order part of it is really where all the controlling of the job's done for. So again, you heard me talk about quick links earlier. These quick links at the bottom of the sales order really just navigate me and show me everything relating to this job.
Yeah.
So for example, if I press the green purchase order button, you can see there 2 of 2.
Yeah.
The system's automatically created the 2 purchase orders.
Oh, right.
And you remember in the
Yeah.
costings I set up for the galvanising and the bar.
Yeah.
So these are status created at the moment. Very quickly,